Hello, everybody. This is Brendan with JAMAR Technologies. We're going to go ahead and get started with this law enforcement webinar. I know there's a few people it looks like are still logging into the system, so hopefully they'll get in and won't miss too much, but I don't want to leave everybody else waiting. So keep in mind this is being recorded, so anyone who doesn't get to see it that you might work with, or any of your colleagues that you know, this will be available on our website and on our YouTube channel as well, so they won't feel like they have to miss that. So anyway, so let's get started. I want to thank everybody for tuning in here. This is the STARnext webinar, which is the JAMAR STARnext software, specifically for law enforcement and for handling speeding complaints. So as a quick introduction, I want to let everybody know there's a lot of us on here. So you are all muted by default. So as everybody comes in, they're muted. So I can't hear any of you. Hopefully you can hear me, but I can't hear any of you. So if any questions come up, you can email them to me. So if you look at the bottom here, so either jot something down and email it later, or you'll be able to call in later and I'll provide all the contact information. But if there is something immediate, you can email me, brendan@jmartech.com. I don't know that we'll have a huge amount of time to answer any direct questions, but at least we'll be able to, it'll pop up on my screen. I'll take a look. If something really jumps out, I'll be able to get into it. But for the most part, we'll just follow up with all that stuff afterwards. So like I said, everyone's muted, so hopefully it'll stay pretty quiet. One thing I did want to say, we have a lot of different types of agencies on this call. They're all law enforcement based, most likely, but the terminology I tend to fall back on is police department. I don't know why, but I don't want anybody to think I'm leaving them out. With police department, law enforcement, sheriff's office, highway patrols, there's all types of law enforcement agencies that we talk with and that we have customers that are part of, and everybody around the country kind of names them something different, but ultimately the result's the same where everybody's dealing with the speeding complaints. So I didn't want to offend anyone, I guess, but I try to say law enforcement as often as possible, but a lot of times I fall back on police departments. I don't know why, so I apologize if it's not all inclusive, but it is meant to be. This webinar will probably take maybe 30, 40 minutes, so it won't take too long. There's so much to cover that we can't cover it all, so I want to keep it as quick as possible without everybody getting all bored and falling asleep on us, but I want to keep it informative. So there's always going to be time later for additional webinars or additional follow-up. So if we don't get into something you were hoping to get into, just let us know. Again, you'll send us an email, call us, whatever it is, and we'll put something together directly, specifically for you, or we can do another one for everybody. So I want to start with why are we here? There's, as I mentioned, different customers on the line here. Some are just that. They're customers that have been using our equipment for a long time, and they're used to hearing things like our Gen 1 radar, and they're hearing software called Trax Pro. And so there's a lot of customers that have been using our equipment, and they're here because they're about to upgrade to our new radar or our new software. There's a lot of customers on here who have just upgraded, and they want to see what they're going to be able to do with their new equipment. And then there's also agencies on here who are not yet customers, and they are about to go ahead and purchase something, or they're considering what's best for them. So it's kind of a varied audience, so I want to make sure I can kind of cover it all. But that's why we're here, and ultimately, we're all, like I said, we're all dealing with the speeding complaints. So hopefully the picture of this couple here rings true with a lot of you guys as far as people calling into your departments and complaining about speeding. My favorite thing about the equipment that we offer and that we're going to cover here is, from a sales or a marketing standpoint, we almost don't have to do very much. You told us what the problem was. So we pick up the phone and it'll be an officer and they'll say, here's the problem I'm dealing with. And they describe these folks here, and they describe all the hassles they're having with their current equipment and current technologies, and we just sit back and say we've got to offer a solution for this. So that's what we're here to do. But like I said, that's my favorite part. It's easy. We don't have to sit around and say, how are we going to convince somebody that they need this, or how are we going to sell this or market this? It's, you've told us, and we're creating a solution for what you need. So if these people are somebody you're dealing with, you maybe have made this space in your life before. It's exasperating to have to deal with this is what we've heard. So so we want to make sure that we're going to cover this type of stuff for you. And then part of that is getting into an intro to our new STARnext software. So we know why we're here, but how did we get here? A brief history of it is police departments and law enforcement agencies were using our equipment long before we knew they were. We have a program out called TraxPro that was designed for traffic engineering studies. So you're talking, speed and traffic data for federal highways and cities and counties and all types of stuff like that. And we started getting phone calls from the engineers saying, oh, I'm more interested in speed, because it turns out that they were being contacted by their local law enforcement departments. And then we started getting calls from the police departments and law enforcement agencies themselves, and they said, well, how can I do this and how can I do that? And ultimately what it is you guys were trying to navigate through an engineering type software to get the data. You knew it was there, but it wasn't easy for you to get because it wasn't a program that was designed for you. So what we did in our old program, TraxPro, is you asked us to make it easier, and we did. We made reports like you're seeing here. These are older screenshots from the older program, but we had officers in our area, and they came here, and we talked to people all around the country, and literally colored pencils and pens and paper, they drew and diagrammed the graphs and the charts that they wanted, and they said, this is what we want this data to do. So it's not a situation where JAMAR is sitting back saying, here's what you need. It's more of a response where you guys used our equipment and found a need for it that we maybe didn't even know really existed, and then we made that for you based on your literal drawings of diagrams and graphs and things. So with that being said, we got here for you guys. So speaking of the older program, TraxPro, the good and bad is that TraxPro is going away, if it not has gone away. So the replacement for that is this new program that we're talking about today called STARnext. And the technical reasons behind TraxPro, I've discovered most police departments don't care about. But the long story short is that it's an older program. It's been around for about 20 years, and we've kept it developing as best we could, but it's hit a technological ceiling as far as what we can do and how we can solve your problems, because there's forces outside of our control. You're talking networks and Windows and Microsoft and just technology around us that is changing, that this software on an older platform is not going to be able to adjust to. So the need right there from a technology standpoint was to have a new program that could help you guys do what you needed to do. But like I said, most police departments don't care about why. They just want to know what it's going to do for them and how it's going to solve their problem. So, but the big takeaway here is that the support for TraxPro. So if you're an existing TraxPro user, which a lot of you are, some of you aren't, but a lot of you are, the support for that's going to end very soon, January 1st, 2020. So that's just in a few months. And that's not something that we really want to do, but the reality is we're not going to have a solution. When you call and say, I'm having this problem, I'm getting this error message, we're going to want to help you, but we're not going to be able to. It's not going to be a solution, and the answer is going to be, well, you need to use STARnext. So I hope that makes sense in a quick nutshell without getting too detailed on the specifics here. So what are we going to do to get us to the next level? And that's what we're offering here today. The STARnext software is, like I mentioned, a replacement for TraxPro. So I know it gets a little complex, especially if you're not a current user of our equipment. Basically, you want to break it into two sides. You've got a hardware, which is going to be one of our radar devices, and then you've got the software, which is going to be, at this point, STARnext. And then when you take those two devices and you put them together, you create a three-step process, essentially, which is collect, analyze, and resolve. So you're going to get a speeding complaint, you're going to collect some data, you're going to analyze that data, and you're going to resolve that problem. And that's what we want to do. That's what this equipment is designed to do, and that's what we want to help you do. So what we'll start with, briefly touch on the hardware stuff, and that's how you're going to collect the data. So when you get a speeding complaint, how is the JAMAR equipment going to help you collect the data? So we're going to take a quick look at our most popular device. And if you've been around with us for a while, you've seen we've had a few generations. We started with our original radar recorder, which we now call the Gen 1, and then we came out with a BlackCat, and then both of those units have been replaced. We now have what we call a Gen 2, and now we have a BlackCat 2. And the BlackCat 2 is an exceptional radar. It's specifically designed to be easy to use and to set up. So ultimately, you're going to get your speeding complaint come in from your residents, and you're going to bring this unit out. You're going to set it to a pole or a utility pole or a tree or anything that's secure, and you're going to point that at the road, and that's going to collect the information. So the step one is collecting. And this is the part that people dislike the most, but we want to make it as easy as possible. So what we've done is we've made a unit that has multiple configurations. So if you have your residential roadways where you're going to get a lot of the speeding complaints, we're talking one lane in each direction. You're going to be able to put this unit out there and you're going to get everything. Your volume, so your counts, your times, your directions, your individual lanes, your speeds, the gaps between the vehicles for following distance, and you're even going to get the length of the vehicles for the classification. Are you talking trucks, cars, motorcycles, things like that? But then if you get into some of the more advanced roadways, I know a lot of the sheriff's office who are now handling bigger jurisdictions, they get involved with multiple lane roads. So if you've got 2 lanes in the same direction, you can put the BlackCat out there now, and that's easier said than done because basically, setting it up is easy, but collecting that type of information is easier said than done. But the radar makes it easy to get all that, the volume, speed, the length, the time, and even the lane specific. And we don't make enough big deal about that, but when you have 2 lanes in the same direction, our units are going to let you, it's not just going to tell you 100 vehicles went north. It's going to tell you 75 were here and 25 were here. You're actually going to know lane-specific information, which is pretty unique, and you'll find very beneficial if it's not something you're getting currently. So kind of a quick recap. So setting up the radar, there's a lot of things we wanted to focus on, but we wanted to make it as efficient as possible. So it's specifically designed for one person to go out there. So it's not a team effort. So if you're envisioning the times when you're lugging out those speed trailers and solar panels and signs and all types of crazy nonsense, those days are over. This is one person. It's carrying a Pelican brand case. Sets up within a couple of minutes. So the hardware from the back of your trunk to what you're seeing in this picture where it's mounted onto the pole, we're talking 3, 4, 5 minutes maybe. Never having to enter the roadway, so there's a big safety factor. And then basically it's all Bluetooth. So you don't have to stand out there. It's cold, it's hot, it's rainy, it's windy, whatever. You set the unit up. You hop right back in your car or your truck, and you're connecting to the unit, setting it up, putting in the parameters, which we'll show you in a second here. And then most importantly, accuracy. We have what we call live view or a real-time view. When you set this up, you actually see visual representation on your computer screen of what's happening in the real world. So you could put this out there and take all our parameters, all of our suggestions, and just throw them out the window. If what you see on the computer screen is what you're seeing in real life, then you leave there knowing that this unit is accurate. You're not having to worry about, is a light blinking, or did it make a beep, or did it beep at the right place? There's none of that guessing. Basically, you're looking at this and saying, I'm seeing vehicles on my screen, and that's what I just saw in real life. And you go home that night, this is doing what it needs to do. You got some confidence in the accuracy. So once the unit is physically set up, we'll kind of want to jump to the software a little bit here. I want to show you what it takes to set this up. So when I said you're going to sit in your vehicle and connect to it via Bluetooth, I want to show you how easy this is. And it's always been a fairly easy process if you're familiar with our older software, but STARnext is going to take it to a whole nother level here. So let me show you here how quick we're going to do this. So basically, we're going to open up our STARnext program. And again, you're sitting in your patrol car and you've got the unit mounted. You're going to select your BlackCat. You may need to select the COM port, depending on how many ports are on your computer, but it's usually going to be, you're going to know which one it is. And you click connect, and it'll go through a little bit of a connection process. And you can see here that it's in the red writing. It's not yet counting. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into this edit setup view. And then here, it's going to give you, you're going to be able to put in some optional information. If you have a site location and the site codes and different ways to characterize and name this location, especially if you're going to be doing it multiple times in the same area, which you'll find out, you'll see later a benefit to that. once you get past all that, it's going to ask you a few questions about the parameters, how high it is off the road, how far away it is from the road. And essentially the rule of thumb here is you build the road that you're looking at. So you're out there, you're sitting in your car, you see the road, you make that. And as you make the changes on the left side of the screen, you'll see, that's kind of hard to see as I click through here, but you'll see that the changes are reflected automatically on the right side of the screen. So you get a preview. So you're seeing the road that you're building and you're seeing it change as you build it. Once that's built, again, well, actually, let me jump here. There's some different lane configurations here as well. You can change the arrows and the approach and the receding. So there's lots of different options you could do. So there's the 2 lanes in the same direction. But like I said, you build the road that you have, and it's easy as that. So there's no guesswork. There's no wondering. And then this is where we're going to have the live view. Of course, I'm in an office, so thankfully there's no cars flying by here, but this is where you'll see that live view. You'll see vehicles represented there. You'll hit our upload and start once you're confident, and then once you do that, that's it. That radar is set up and running. So it took me longer to explain that than it probably will take you in real life to actually set that up. And now you can see it's counting in the middle of the screen there. It says green for counting. That's it. So it's as easy as that to get this radar set up. So we're talking a couple minutes of hardware out on the side of the road, and then you're connecting to it, and that quickly, you're driving away that quickly. So the next thing you want to do is let it do its thing. So you're connected, you drove away, you're going, handling your business, let the unit do what it needs to do. It's going to leave it out there for a couple days, a couple weeks, whatever your scenario calls for. This little quick video here is just kind of a silly thing. It's kind of showing, you see this, there's actually 2 radars on that pole, but there's a little radar right there to kind of show how covertly this is going to be collected. Nobody knows it's there. Nobody sees a big sign, a big trailer. I mean, you're going to be collecting real unbiased information here, and the driver's habits aren't going to be changing at all. So that's a key component to this. So once the process is finished and you said, okay, well, I've collected for the duration that I need to collect, the next process is getting the information from the radar into the software. So of course we call that downloading. And I want to show you how easy that is to download the unit. So let me start here. So now a couple different scenarios you can kind of paint here. You could pull right up in your patrol car, never even get out, and just connect to it through Bluetooth with STARnext and download it right there. Leave the unit still out there doing its thing. Or you can take the whole unit down, bring it back into your office, connect to it there. So it gives you some convenient options, but the process of downloading is the same. So whether you do it in the field, in your car, bring it back to the office, ultimately you're going to open up STARnext. You're going to say that you want to download the BlackCat. Again, similar to when you set it up, you're going to make sure you're on the right COM port. Should be pretty self-explanatory most of the time. And you're going to click connect, and it's going to run through a connection process. And the next thing you're going to see here is a download screen. And basically it shows you all the different files that are in that counter. So sometimes you might have 1 or 2, sometimes you might have a ton. This is a kind of a sample radar I use for a variety of things. So there's a whole mess of counts in there. But basically you'll pick the one you want. And typically it's going to be the most recent one. But you can select them all. You can select the individual one, whatever you need to do. So you select the file you're looking for. You do the download process. Files are this one's kind of cruising along, but depending on the size of the file, how long it was out there for, how many vehicles are in the count. So there's going to be some factors that contribute to the length of the download time. You could usually expect, within a few minutes for a reasonable size count. Like I said, this one's cruising along, so we'll just kind of let this one finish here. And then basically it shows you the file that you've downloaded. And there's some other information here that we can get into at a later point, but ultimately the goal is here to click this button to create the count. And you're going to see this screen a bunch of times as we go through here today. This is, it shows you the data. Basically, this data is ready for analysis, but it's essentially a database of all the vehicles. So this is where things get a little bit scary, because this is what you kind of used to see in TraxPro, something similar to this. And the first thing a police department said was, what are all these things? I'm not an engineer. I don't know any of this terminology. I don't know any of this. But you'll see in a second here, all you're going to worry about is this little button right here that says Police Reports. So basically what we've done, and again, it's taken me longer to explain it than it probably would have done for you to actually do in real life, is we've set the unit up now, hardware-wise. We've connected to it and put the information for the count in there, and then we've let it run for whatever duration we need, and now we've downloaded the data, and we have the data on our computer. So the collect process is finished. So the next thing we need to worry about is analyzing this data. And the big thing we talk about with police departments is, how is this going to solve my problem? That's really what we focus with police departments. You know, you guys are busy, you got a lot going on, and sometimes you got a lot more important things going on than the speeders. And I know the speeding and all that is it's safety and it's important, but you guys got a lot more going on. So basically, we want you to be able to solve your problem as soon as possible. And another thing to consider is, you know, how is this data going to help you? How is it going to help you solve your problem? And what I like to say is, you could collect data in almost any way. You could sit out there with a radar gun and a pencil and a paper, and you could sit out there with a stopwatch and a pencil and a paper. I mean, there's some old school, crazy, time-consuming ways you can do these things. And you can say, yeah, I got the data, and it didn't cost me anything. Well, what are you going to do with that data now that you have it? What are you going to do with a pad of paper with a bunch of pencil marks on it? You know, how's that going to really help you solve a problem? So the hardware we care about. We want it to be accurate. We want it to be easy to use, but that's just one little piece of it. You know, you'll hear us talk about the radars all the time. Oh, JAMAR makes the radars. It's the JAMAR BlackCat radar. But collecting it, that, I don't want to say that's the easy part, but that's the part, I mean, that anybody can do. But really, what are you going to do with that data when you have it? And that's when the software kicks in. And that's when you say, okay, well, I've used the best device available to collect the most accurate data as easily and quickly as possible. So now I need it to help me. So the first thing we're going to want to worry about is looking at our data. Do we have a problem, or is this a problem with perception? Basically, you've all known, and again, this is something that we hear from you. It's not something that we make up. You know, we travel the country listening to police departments, and we go to the shows and the conferences and safety conventions and all that type of stuff. We hear people say so many of the speeding issues we get are exaggerated, or not even deliberately exaggerated. They're just perception issues. The guy with the loud muffler sounded like he was doing 100 miles an hour, but in reality it was just a big old hunk of junk, and he was doing 3 miles an hour down the road, sounding like a drag race or something. So, you know, that's what you want to be able to look at and say, okay, do I have a problem? If I do, how am I going to fix it? And if I don't, how am I going to let people know that I've taken the steps needed to, lack of a better phrase, kind of cover my butt a little bit? I've heard their complaint, and I've taken some steps here to verify that this is something that we need to worry about, or the enforcement that we've already scheduled for that area is enough for what we need. So along with those reports that you're going to get, you're going to be using those internally. So if you're an officer, the chief's going to be asking about them. The chief's asking about it. The city council's going to be wanting to see it, because they're getting complaints. And you're also going to want to be able to give this information directly to the public and say, hey, here's what we've done, and look at the service we've provided for you, and here's why you do or do not need to worry about something. And then a lot of departments post it right on their website, which we love to see as well. And they just put their reports right up there for everyone to see. So you got a speeding complaint, well, look at the website first, because we just did a study there last week, and there's no problem. But what you need is a program that's going to allow you to really handle all 4 of these type of things and then some. So there's a lot of bases that need to be covered with the data. So you're going to solve your problems. Do I even have a problem? Is it a perception problem? And who's my audience? Who am I giving this stuff to? So we want to make sure that you can utilize all that. So basically, what we're going to look at here is 2 of the most common reports, and one of those is, 2 of the most useful reports, and the one is the newer one here. The speed data analysis. This is one that so far has been a huge success. People are raving about this report. It's so simple. It's such a simple idea. I'll show you how to do it in the software. Really easy to understand. We have all types of data types you could put into it. You'll see in a second here, it's literally a drag and drop creation, and this has been one of the most highly requested features, something this simple and this useful, and we've put it in the program, and people have gone nuts for it. So let me show you here exactly how easy you're going to make that report. So if you remember a screen similar to this where we were analyzing the data previously after we downloaded it, I went up and I clicked police reports. This is telling me here, hey, there's no map involved with this. So maps are cool. We want to show the residents where it was. I specifically left this information out of the account file originally so that I can show you how to put this in. But I'm going to go here and search this address to where I know this count was. I don't know the exact address, but I know the street. So it gets me there. So I know that we did this on Schwab Road. So I'm going to say, okay, now where exactly was this? And say, okay, let me grab this bubble or this pin, pull it here, and say, okay, here's where this count took place. I'm going to save that. I'm going to save that map image, and it's instantly going to become part of my file here. And then as soon as I clear this map, you're going to see we got a default right away. Some departments are going to click print on this and never look back. That's it. But you have the option, you can see up here, to adjust your start times, your end times for, sometimes you start to count earlier and you end it later, but you only need a couple days in between. You're going to put in your speed limits, and you're going to put in your tolerance. And actually, let me back up one little second here. I'm going to go back to this tolerance section. The speed tolerance that you're going to put in here, this is going to be different for every department, and you'll see later on that you may or may not want to actually advertise this, but this would be, you've got a road that's 35 miles per hour. What's enforceable? Are you going to pull someone over at 36 miles per hour? Some departments do that, and there's plenty of valid reasons why that would be needed. Some departments say, well, it's not going to be a problem until 40. So you want to consider that and say, well, if you're not going to pull them over until they're doing 40, so 5 over, technically 36, 37, 38, 39, those aren't enforceable speeds. So you don't want that to show up in your results as being something enforceable when really it's not. So for simplicity purposes here, I've put a 10 mile per hour tolerance in there, but like I said, that's going to be everybody's discretion, and you'll decide later on if you do or don't want to see that. So now that we have this report, I'm going to show you here how I can just drag and drop anything that I went in here. So you'll see on the far left, there's different information that can be shown on the report. In the middle section there, you'll see I'm going to start to drag and drop different parts. As I drag and drop them, they get created on that preview on that right side. You'll see that report change. So when I drag this peak time of violations, it populated on a different page. So I'm going to pull one of these down, and then you'll see that pops there. And then if I get too crazy, I just hit the reset button and I go back to my defaults, and I can always start over and start fresh. So you can see how quickly, so I mean, it's a matter of seconds where this report is generated, and how easily this could be used for any of those purposes. The council, the chief, hand it out to the residents, and like I said, you show them what you do or don't want to see. Once you get it the way you want, you go to save as, you save it as a PDF, you can print it, you can email it, you can save it, whatever you want to do, and then within a matter of minutes, you've got that data right there at your fingertips, ready to go. The next one I want to get into, I just want to kind of keep things moving here, is the Enforcement Evaluator. This is probably our most popular report that we had a similar concept to in TraxPro, and it's been updated and developed more here for STARnext. What people love about this is that it's super easy to understand. Similar to the one I just showed you, you can show exactly what you want or don't want. So you'll see when I show you how this is made that I check and uncheck various things. So for over here, we've got our enforcement tolerance. Maybe we don't want to advertise that when we give this to the residents that are complaining. You don't want them to say, well, 10 mile tolerance, all of a sudden they're questioning all a bunch of nonsense. So we just uncheck that. It's part of the information, it's part of the calculation, but we don't need to advertise it and create more trouble than it's worth. So and then you'll see we've got some gauge and some linear options, and similar to the drag and drop option, it's going to be some real-time data creation here. So let me show you. This will be one that you'll use a lot. Like I said, in TraxPro, this was probably the most common report. I think that speed data analysis is going to give it a run for its money. But so we're on our analysis screen. We click police reports. We click the enforcement, and you can see it's a very basic screen here. But as I click things on the left, you'll see, well, actually, let me stop here just one second. There is a school zone. So when I shift gears, there's a school zone feature in here that we're not going to get into too much today. It could be its own webinar itself. But this allows you to eliminate or highlight school zone issues. So basically, when you're doing a count and the school zone lights are going to be flashing at certain segments of the day, you don't want that to influence the data. You don't want it to look like all of a sudden you've got an average of vehicles going super slow. You kind of want to filter that out during those times. Or the flip opposite of that is you want to take a look at just those times and see what are people doing in this school zone. Are they really being, adhering to it? So there's just a section right in there just for that, which you could just check and we'll turn on. But we're kind of going to ignore that today, but I want you to let you know that it exists. So when you're calling here and you're talking to us, ask us about the school zone stuff because we'll want to show you about that. And we'll have more stuff about that as we go on later in a different webinar. But as I check and uncheck things here, you're going to see the report is going to, on the right side, is going to start to populate. I'm going to say, okay, what do I want to show? What do I not want to show? How do I want to name these descriptions? Do I want to, or name these directions? Do I want to show that the units used or not used? I'm going to go into these report options and I'm going to say, do I want to show the speed limit? Do I want to show the tolerance? Do I not want to show the tolerance? So it's going to give me all these opportunities to essentially create this report. And you can see here under chart styles, it's set as radial gauges, which is what we're seeing here. Gives you a problem or shows you if you have a problem or not. What you see I've done here is I've added the map and I've scrolled down to show you that. But you'll see, do we have a problem in these individual lanes or not, as well as the combined. The cool new feature here is that we're adding is the linear graph. So when you click that, you're going to get this new graph here with the turtle and the rabbit. Kind of keeps it very visual and lets people see where your slowest, your fastest, and your averages are. And you can use these buttons down here to actually even adjust that. We want to give you the information and tell you what's happened out there, but we don't want to tell you how to use that information. We don't want to tell you how to do your job. So what might be a problem for one department might not be a problem for another department. Like I said, it's going to be based on a lot of factors. So you can essentially say, what is the slowest speed? Show me the colors and the problems and, what justifies a problem versus not a problem. So you're in full control of that information and how it's presented, but at least your final outcome will be something cool like that. And again, you can save it as a PDF. You can print it. There's tons of different page setup options and all types of things like that. Again, we can get into later, but I don't want to bore everybody with all that type of stuff. These two buttons up here I want you to pay attention to. I'm not going to click them yet, but in a couple minutes I will. They're going to be really cool. You can get to them through this enforcement evaluator, but I'll also show you later on how you can get to them and how they can be useful. So basically some of the additions, those are the two most common reports that you're going to use and really start putting a lot of your information into. But then there's some more simple stuff. We've got our, it's our custom graphs and what we call our tabular data, which is kind of like a quick read, which I'll show you a quick layout of the data. But then we also have some more detailed stuff, which again could be a whole webinar in itself, but I'll touch on that, which is the enforcement scheduler and the best times to enforce. So I'll show you what they look like, but we won't be able to get too far into them. But so these graphs, this is pretty self-explanatory, but I at least want to show you what it looks like. Started my analysis here, and I'm going to click this police reports button, and then I'm going to go to the graphs. The point to take away here is the availability of the graphs and the options that are there. Some of these look a little bizarre because we haven't really done anything to fine-tune them, but you can see there's numbers of vehicles greater than certain speeds, number of vehicles traveling at a given speed, your totals, cumulative speeds, and how you display these. You're going to have total freedom. They're all customizable with their colors, how many are on a page, what the background looks like. You can always go back and reset to the defaults. You can choose which ones you want to show, which ones you don't want to show, and there's even more that you can add in there on a different screen. So I didn't want to bombard it. But with the titles, you see your titles here. You would put your title on there. In our older programs you may be familiar with, this was all had to be done in a different screen. But all this, your comments, what's included on the report header, it's all available to be updated right there in that screen. And then just like everything else, you're ready for it. You can save it. You can print it, make it as a PDF, email it, whatever you need to do to create this bundle of data. So that's going to be the graphs. The tabular reports, again, pretty simple, but I'll show you how they work. Got our analyze screen here. Go to our police reports, tabular report. This is a real basic, what in most cases we call a one-pager. You'll see here in a second here that I can absolutely make it a lot more than one-pager. But, we've got one-line summary of our count, full day summary of each day, and then we can go down to each hour. And when we go down to each hour, we could be talking pages and pages based on how much information you have. So if I click pages, there's a good 7 pages there. But I can keep it super simple and just do a day summary. I can show the individual lanes, the combination of the lanes, label them how I want. This is something that's real easy for a city council a lot of times. You can give them to them and say, hey, here's a problem, and it's either a problem or not a problem. And they like to see numbers, and you can see how fast that was generated in literally 30 seconds or less. Another one I want to get into here, best times for enforcement. This is something that's going to be really cool because if you do have a problem, you don't want to just, the whole point is to not guess. So you're going to look at it and say, hey, I've done a study here and I have a problem. So now you want to be as efficient as possible. You want to say, when do I need to go out there? When do I have the best chance of grabbing these people who are speeding, issuing some tickets, and of course the overall goal is to make things safer and keep people following what the rules are supposed to be following. So you don't just want to blindly go out there and say, okay, there's a problem on this road, let me target enforce. You don't want the resident to call and say, oh, well, they were speeding as soon as you left, or you weren't there at the right time. So this is going to let you combat all that stuff. So essentially what you're going to do, let me show you here how we do this. We're going to go back into this evaluator. So we've seen this screen before, and I mentioned this button. We're going to push that best times to enforce. And based on this study, this is telling you the best hours to go out there at that specific location. So I have a 2-hour window that day to do some enforcement. I have a 1-hour window that day. It doesn't matter. I got all day long, 6 hours. The report's going to change and say, if you want to go out to this location and you've got a time window of 2 hours, this is the best 2 hours during these various days to go out to that location. And now you're maximizing your chances of really making a difference with the enforcement, slowing people down, writing the tickets that need to be written, and also appeasing the residents that you're there at the right time. So that can be done right through the evaluator, but there's also, you can see a separate button for best times to enforce. You can go right into that. So you don't have to go in and make that evaluator report first. You can just do a study and skip all this stuff that I've already talked about and just jump right to best times to enforce and say, okay, where do I need to be and when do I need to be there? So that's the best times to enforce. So that's going to be one that you'll use a lot. And again, there's more that can be said about that, but I don't want to get everybody held up too long today. Similar to that, and we're kind of winding down some of these reports here, is this enforcement scheduler. This is the basics for this. This could be a webinar in itself. But I want to show you at least how some of this stuff operates. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back into the police reports, and I'm going to go back into the evaluator. And I'm going to click this button for Schedule for Enforcement. And ultimately what this is going to do is say, there's a problem here, and I need to send an officer out there to handle this. So I'm going to go bring this study in. Essentially, I just imported this study into this enforcement scheduler. I'm going to prioritize it. I'm going to say, make this the next available thing this officer does, and it's a high priority. So it's labeled as such. I'm going to give him some reports to say, hey, there's some field paperwork. Again, it's up to your own strategy, but the options are here for some field paperwork that he could fill out, and you could say, I want him or her to fill this out or not fill this out, so they can print this out and help kind of verify the complaint file with that. And then there's a post-enforcement process as well. So after they do the enforcement, they can give some results on that. And again, it kind of completes a whole file. So I'm going to save these changes. Now the cool thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look at this and say, okay, here it is. So there's a pre-enforcement scheduled, but there's nothing after that. So I'm going to go in and say, let's say I've done that study and I've done some enforcement here. Now I'm going to go back out and put my JAMAR equipment out there again. I'm going to do another study at that exact same location, and then I'm going to attach that study to this file here. So I'm going to navigate. So now some time has passed in this scenario. I've done a second study after my target enforcement. I add that to this, and then right away I can click this before-after report. And what I'm seeing here, I know it's tough to see on your screen. Like I said, we could do a whole webinar on this one day. This is showing the difference. It's showing the exact location, what problems were before, and what the different problems are now, and what the differences are. And here you can see it's all negative numbers, which is good. So now you're actually getting a before and after. You're verifying and proving that the results are proving the results of your actions, which is a big benefit. So you could say, I've done a study, now I've determined there was a problem, I've gone out there and addressed this problem with my officers, and now I've done a follow-up study, and I'm here to show you that what we've done has helped, and that goes a long way with the councils, with the mayors, with the residents, with the police chiefs. So, so the enforcement scheduler, that can go on for a long time, but I want to at least just let you know that be aware of that, and we could talk more about that. So we've covered the collect, we've covered the analyze. So really, the last step is the resolve. So here's just kind of a stylized image of a lot of these reports that we've shown. We've got our linear data, we've got our gauges, we've got our locations and our speed data analysis and our tabular data. Now that we have all this stuff, as you saw in the scheduler, there's printouts to do post-enforcement and pre-enforcement and post-enforcement. We've got a whole package now for essentially a speeding complaint file that we can resolve any of those categories we talked about earlier when we talked about the city council and the residents and the website and the chief and all that. We've appeased them in from so many different angles that essentially these speeding complaints are going to be solved, and you're going to have the verifiable proof on what you've done. So if you remember these guys at the beginning, they were super upset with you. They're frowning, they're pointing. Look at them now. Nobody can believe it. They're super happy. And then, of course, this guy, look at him. Who doesn't want to be this guy, right? He's happy, the problems are resolved, and he's moving on. So that's our big claim here, speeding complaint resolved. It's a proven thing that we could do. It's a proven thing that departments call us every day and tell us they don't know what to do without it. So we're hoping you're one of them, and we're hoping you're going to continue to do it. So as we wind down here, I want to go over a couple things that I know some of the questions you guys have right away, some of the first questions we get. But again, as I mentioned earlier, I don't have to come up with the answers to these questions because you guys have already given them to me. I don't go home at night and think, how am I going to answer the question of why do I need JAMAR if my department already has a speed trailer? And the reason I don't have to come up with that answer is because 2, 3, 4 times a day, somebody calls me and they tell me, hey, I've got this speed trailer and it's super outdated, it's super big, it's super heavy. I got 3 guys lugging this thing around. I got the public works guys fixing the axle on it. It's insane. Meanwhile, the residents, they see it. One, it's a traffic hazard when it's in the shoulder. You got bike guys crashing into it. It's a whole ordeal. But meanwhile, the residents are seeing it. They don't even care about it anymore. It's not effective. But then they say, but, the good thing is it collects data. And I said, well, really? Because what's the first thing anybody's going to do, whether you're speeding or not? If you're driving down the street and you see a big thing in the road that says police on it, I don't speed myself personally. When I see one of those, I slam on my brakes just out of habit or just out of reflex. And so essentially, if you do use this unit, there's a lot of reasons not to for all that I just mentioned. But the other thing is it's not going to be collecting any type of accurate data because people who aren't even speeding are slowing down right in front of it. So people tell me that all the time. They say it might slow people down temporarily, but it's more of a hazard, more of a hassle. But what you could do is if people insist on it, I say you take the JAMAR equipment, you set it up in minutes, one officer, it's not out in the road, you're not out in the road, you're collecting accurate, covert speed data, nobody knows it's there, it's unbiased, and then you can kind of look at it and really generate some speed reports and forget about all that trailer nonsense. So the other thing, again, I don't have to come up with an answer for this. People say, well, speed signs, that's what people love. We got grants for them. JAMAR doesn't sell them, but, there are a lot of companies that do, and we see them everywhere. And again, I don't have to come up with an answer for this. You guys call me and you say, I got that grant and I got that speed sign and it's great. It's a step up from my speed trailer, but it's not solving their problem. It's a good public relations tool. But what you guys are telling us is that you put them out there. They're, again, just like the trailer, they're seen too often by the residents. And the city has posted speed limits, and studies show that a light up screen does very little. Because the fact is, and police officers know this more than anybody, the people who are speeding most of the time don't care that they're speeding. So when you tell them, hey, you're speeding, what they're thinking is, yeah, I know, thanks. And the grass is green and the sky is blue. They don't care. So the speed sign is not really helping. It's just kind of a public relations tool. But again, the JAMAR equipment, you're going to put that out and you're going to be able to collect real data. Nobody's going to know it's there. You're going to be able to verify, or even a lot of times departments use the speed sign. They collect the data with our equipment, put out the speed signs, and then put out the JAMAR equipment again, similar to the scenario as I talked about, and then they can see, did this help? Has there been any overall slow down in the speed, and it's verifiable and provable. And the last thing people talk about is, well, I send my officers out. And we hear this with a lot of the small departments too. I just send my officers out and they handle it. What I do is I answer this question most of the time with a bunch of questions myself, which are not necessarily rhetorical questions, but I say, how often do you do that? How often do you send officers out there to verify these complaints, and how much time and money does it cost for your officers to be out there doing that? And then how much of these are proven to come back and actually be exaggerated? These are guys' valuable, important time that are sitting out there just to follow up on a complaint with maybe somebody who's a habitual complainer. Who knows? Maybe it's a problem, maybe it's not, but you've got to have somebody out there to find that out. With this equipment, you don't. You put the unit out there, let the unit do its, let the JAMAR equipment do that for you, do that heavy work for you. So as we wind down here, so I hope that answers a few of those questions for you. A few things I want to remember before I let you all go, or I want you to remember before I let you all go, is with the JAMAR equipment, there's free support via phone and email. So you call us, you email us, software support, hardware support. There's no recurring fees. We're not charging you for that. There's no cloud fees. Even with the hardware, maybe every couple of years you'll need a new battery or something for $30, but there's no consistent cost to this stuff. And we are the sole source provider for this. We're making it all here. We're designing and developing it all here. We're selling it from here. We're supporting it from here. So it's kind of like your one-stop shop. You're not dealing with a bunch of distributors and a bunch of resellers and a bunch of crazy stuff like that. This information, if you want to stay current, the JAMAR Radar page, it's jamartech.com/new police kits. And then we also have our YouTube channel, which you can link to from our website as well, because this is kind of a crazy long thing here. But we keep videos and tutorials and webinars and things on there and we currently have a lot of police videos on there to kind of show you how to use a lot of this stuff. So if you're a current customer or you're going to be a customer, you have those resources there, whether you call us and talk to us directly, or whether it's after hours or something and you check it out online. The information's there. We want to make sure of that. Another thing to remember is that everything we do here is customer influenced. So when I started earlier and I said, you figured this out and then you told us about this and you showed us, that rings true because we can't do any of this without you. We're designing these things for you guys. So we want to hear from you. Again, being police officers and law enforcement, you guys know better than anybody that people don't hesitate to tell you what they don't like. So we're not worried about that. I think we've got that covered. But still, if you don't like something, give us a call and let us know. But we also want to know what you do like, what you need, what's happy, what's working well, what you want to work better. We have an in-house software team here that we make this stuff right here where I'm sitting. And then we make updates, we make fixes. We can release them sometimes the same day. You call us and say, hey, there's a problem with this. The same day, the next day, I'm sending you a link and you're downloading a new version of the software at no charge, and it's fixed your problem. So we want you to give us that feedback. We want to make those fixes for you, and we want you to consider us as a partner. We want you to say, I've got this problem, and I'm using this equipment, and it's helping me, but I need some support from JAMAR. I need some help from JAMAR. I need some advice from JAMAR. How's other people doing this? What's the best way to do this? We want to be the first ones you call to help you with these type of problems because we know we have the solutions and we want you to use them. A couple important dates, especially if you're a current Trax Pro user specifically, there's an upgrade discount for STARnext that ends on October 1st. So if you're using the JAMAR equipment with the Trax Pro software, which is the older program, you're going to want to upgrade to STARnext as soon as possible, especially considering there's an upgrade. So give us a call if you know your salesperson. If you don't, I'll have all the contact information here at the end. We want to get you upgraded for a discount before October 1st. And the other thing to remember is January 1st, 2020, Trax Pro support ends. So if you're an existing Trax Pro user, there's not going to be a great answer for problems you might have after the new year. The solution's going to be, well, buy STARnext. And then the next step is going to be, oh, well, I wish I had bought it in October. This is me telling you do it before October and avoid that whole problem. Purchasing options, again, existing TraxPro users, you can actually go on our website right now, or you could just call. If you reference the promo code SPEEDING, that's going to get you the discount. So even right on our website, put the STARnext in the cart on the store. There's a section for promo code, type in SPEEDING, and you'll see the discount. That expires on October 1st, but to get that as soon as you can. For new users, if you don't have our equipment, we have bundles that include everything you need, and these packages arrive at your doorstep with laptop computer, with the software, STARnext software installed, Bluetooth, everything's paired up. You've got your radar, your locks, your chains, your batteries, I mean everything. Literally right out of the box, you open this up from UPS, you're walking right out to the side of the road to install this if you wanted to. No downtime, no IT guys being called. It's ready, it's paired, it's set up. All you got to do is follow the steps that I've showed you in this webinar for setting it up and generating the reports. And those bundles are all available. We have police packages. So call and ask about those and we'll get you going. Again, keep in mind we are sole source for this unit, so there is nothing else like this on the market. There's nobody else that's going to be able to sell it. If it's JAMAR equipment, JAMAR software, give us a call. We're making it here, we're building it here, selling it here, supporting it here. We're going to be the ones. And then we want to make it as easy as possible. So all government agencies get an automatic net 30. So you call us, whatever purchase process you have, whether it's purchase order number, credit card, check, whatever, give us a call. You're going to get a net 30 invoice. We'll ship the equipment out right away. You'll start using it, and then you'll have 30 days to get us paid. The sales staff here is more than just sales staff. I want to make sure if you've dealt with us before, you already know that. We're not a bunch of used car salesmen, or what I always like to joke, say used mattress salesmen, which sounds terrible, but we're professionals. We know this stuff. Like I said, we travel the country. We talk with police departments all day, every day. We go to the police departments. We go to the safety shows, the conferences. We've been awarded and honored at various police conventions for our contribution to the safety of traffic enforcement. And we want to share all that knowledge with you guys. So whether it's a question, whether you need something, whether you, you call and say, I don't want to admit to my chief, but I don't know how to do this. Can you tell me how to do it? Yeah, secret's safe. We're going to tell you exactly how to do it, and you go back and present it like you came up with it all yourself. Doesn't matter. We're here to help you. So I know the writing on these cards is small, but if you go to our website, you'll be able to find all this. Our specific contact information, if there's immediate questions, again, I'm not the sales rep for everybody, but I can certainly point you in the right direction with any immediate questions today. Brendan@jamartech.com. I can get you to your salesperson. If you go on our website, there's contact forms there. And of course, you can always call the 800 number. So any questions, don't hesitate to reach out and let us know. So I think that's about it. I got a little video playing here. You're happy it's about 1.5 minutes long or so. You're happy to stick around and watch that. But hopefully I covered enough to keep everybody interested and keep you updated. And anything we could do, please let us know. But this is a really exciting device, an exciting time to get involved with this. So we hope you do. So thanks for tuning in. And I look forward to hearing with you guys with questions and anything else that might come up. Bye-bye.